Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with some more Warhammer 3 discussions as a recent PCGAMESN article has just dropped revolving around the game. It's again another developer interview, so I wanted to discuss it as there's a few interesting things there. There are going to be a few minor spoilers, but I'm going to try and leave out as much as possible, and if you want to read the article it will be linked in the description below. Obviously, any stuff that's already been discussed through terms of gameplay and all that will be omitted because, well, I've already been showcasing that off in videos, so let's just jump right in because there's a few things to discuss. Something minor to discuss is obviously another nod to the Chaos Dwarfs. We're not going to talk about it much as we've done that a lot lately, and yeah, you know, it's just like they're likely to be the first race pack, and I'm just curious to see what they're going to be like. Keep in mind that they've had two different iterations throughout Warhammer Fantasy through two different army books. Well, one was a supplement. I hope they can draw from both, as there's some pretty cool stuff in both books, but that's a conversation for another day, hopefully eventually when they actually release Chaos Dwarfs. And here's where we can jump in with a little bit of Belakor discussion. So they say here, like the Skaven, just a rumour. Turning to Belakor, it's cool to see him confirmed as the final boss after so much community speculation. Will he be playable at all? He seems to be an obvious fit for Chaos Undivided Legendary Lord at some point. Now, I'm imagining that this interview was more or less around the same time as mine, where only recently Creative Assembly did confirm that he is a playable unique lord if we beat the campaign and decide to continue playing, so if we want to paint the map and so on. But there is interesting information here as to the reasoning why they made him the final boss. This is actually highlighted by Andy Hall, the principal writer of Warhammer 3. Where they did confirm that they wanted to make him the villain of Warhammer 3 mainly because they know his role in Warhammer, whether from Mordheim or even the End Times. First time they've actually mentioned the End Times like this. We'll talk about that a little later on in the video. Anyways, he's ideal for that role because the Chaos Gods hate him and the Goodies certainly aren't friends with him either. So he can do stuff that will affect everyone and everyone's going to try and stop him. He's a classical villain who's full of plots and machinations. He's also a big hulking demon creature, so he can fulfill the role of having a bit of muscle but being very intelligent with it as well, and of course we know that he's a fan favorite. Yeah, this is pretty much true. Belakor is very, very popular throughout the Warhammer franchise, and I don't mean just Warhammer Fantasy, this is like also Age of Sigmar, Warhammer 40,000. He's a big guy. He's powerful, but he's always kind of been a bit of a Team Rocket thing. He's always been there to set up a campaign, and yeah, it's just always been a cool thing about him. So obviously we know he's not a fully playable Legendary Lord, like he doesn't have his own faction and so on, but there's some interesting information here because they say, I'm sure post-release we'll be looking at maybe doing other things with him. Hopefully this either means that he'll be a fully fledged Legendary Lord, or he'll get some interesting plot points. Like, they look like they're trying to hammer in the Warhammer 3 stuff. I would love if we got like some mini campaigns centered around Albion, which has Belakor as a main spotlight there. It's a book known as Shadows over Albion, which was really, really cool back in the day. I mean, having his own faction would be cool too. We don't know what exactly they'll plan to do. It would just be kind of nice, and that's the most important thing. More narrative would be great. Well, both of the possible outcomes would be great in all honesty. But the important thing to discuss here is that it's not out of the question of him having some other stuff to do in the future. So that's great, that's honestly cool. So another thing to discuss here is regarding the Advisor. I've discussed this before in live streams, but never in videos. The Advisor's looking great in the movies, and we learn a lot about his motives at last. Just to confirm, he's definitely the light wizard who appeared in the very first Total War trailer and was snared by the book, isn't he? The answer is he is, yeah. He looks a bit younger than he does in Warhammer 1, doesn't he? Yes, he does. He's grown some hair back. That's very interesting, isn't it? That's not a mistake, let's just say that. That's just teasing. Okay, so let's talk about this. I've had a theory for a while that the games themselves have different timelines, and that kind of makes sense in a way. So we've seen the Advisor in Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2. He's been pretty old. I think it's because Warhammer 1 is the exact point as where the proper timeline starts. This is the campaign itself, with Warhammer 3 being the build-up to Warhammer 1. I know this might sound confusing, but think about it this way. Warhammer 3 is very based on demons. We're going into the realms of chaos, we're going for demon souls, Belakor is doing his stuff and so on. And then, you know, Warhammer 1's main narrative, well, the very little narrative that Warhammer 1 has, is the arrival of Archaon and his armies basically to start off the end times. I'm not saying that we're going into the full end times. I still think that we kind of are, even though Creative Assembly are saying no at the moment, but they're probably just saying that because it still draws a lot of negativity from the fan base, with good reason, of course. But I imagine since we're going to the realms of chaos and we're stealing demon souls and so on, that's probably going to make the Chaos Gods want to band together in a End Times-esque event. I don't know, it sounds like it makes sense, but it's also like, well, how does that trigger everything? Because obviously the End Times was triggered by Archaon. You never know, maybe that's going to be expanded upon in the Mortal Empires map for Game 3? Lastly, we have a little bit of information regarding the Immortal Empires map, which is what everyone was pretty much concerned about. I think it's just the wording though. Finally, are you ready to say anything more about Immortal Empires? Where the response is as follows: it's definitely coming and it'll be everything we promised. All the 3 games combined. We're not going to go into detail about the shape it'll take yet, but rest assured, it's the ultimate culmination of the vision behind the trilogy. I don't think the map will be much bigger, because the map in Warhammer 3 is twice as big as before, and bigger than the Mortal Empires. Okay, so a lot of people here were worried because they thought maybe this means that the map isn't going to be too big. My main concern is obviously Lustria and the Southlands, because, well, it's kind of small. Cathay also is kind of small, but I do think that we will eventually get some Cathay and expansion and so on, because it kind of makes sense. This is further expanded here, where they said, that's what I was wondering about, because you understandably needed to cut off chunks of Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2's campaign maps to combine them, with Warhammer 3's map being so huge and so skewed around the North Pole. Presumably those contortions are even more severe. Actually, I think the contortions are slightly less severe. We just adjust the map in order to fit the bigger scope. So you won't find that it's a direct copy-paste of the landmasses in Warhammer 1 and then 2, because that wouldn't work. All those areas will be included, okay. We've just redesigned the map to be able to accommodate them all, and maybe a few more. Okay, so we're getting what we expected. They're just maybe shrinking some of the areas? I guess that's what it means? Which would probably make sense if they squish a few areas. We've already seen that in the Warhammer 3 map with, say, Talabeclan being reduced just to kind of fit everything a little bit better. And there's certainly a few places with, say, for example, obviously Lustria, maybe even in the Southlands that could be squished. I don't know, because, well, not Lustria, actually, no, not Lustria. Lustria's too much of an issue as it is. There's one more paragraph that gives a little bit more insight, which is as follows. It's very much a project in its own right, which is why the whole plan around the trilogy has had to bear this in mind. It's effectively an entire game that's going out for free, if you own all 3 of them, by the way. It's just very important to say that. It's a big undertaking and a lot of work, but it's always the promise and desire to say, okay, the fans have been on this journey with us for 3 whole games, we want to give them that massive thing at the end. We knew from the very beginning that that would be the experience everyone would want, and it's the experience we would want as fans as well. We want the whole Warhammer Fantasy world in one map, right? So yeah, it's going to be special. So this pretty much just says it's going to be the whole world, but how their translation of the whole world is confusing, because this could literally mean, yeah, we're going to give you everything, just a bit of cut off Lustria and a bit of cut off Southlands, a bit of cut off maybe Ind, I guess. Obviously the Dark Elf territories were cut off in the Warhammer 2 map too. I mean, if they want to give us as much as possible, I'm not totally against a little bit of a cut off, though they need to make Lustria a little bit bigger, because look, I'm a big fan of Clan Pestilence, I'm telling you guys, and it's frustrating to play there. It just feels like, I get it, you want total war, but yeah, you know what I mean? As a fan, and I think many others would be the same, especially tabletop fans, we want a complete full world, though I understand there's limitations to a game, especially since this engine is pretty small, so maybe they're saying full world by representing as many countries as possible, but just not every single landmass, which kind of makes sense, because, let's be honest, a lot of stuff doesn't really need to be added in, like, say, for example, the Southern Chaos Waste, which was pretty much just connected to the North. It's got nothing there barring Demonic Beastmen, but even Games Workshop refused to kind of flesh out their lore. You'd think even in Age of Sigmar, which everything gets kind of weird, you'd start seeing stuff like that, but nothing so far, and it's been a few good years. If I'd have to go by a guess, I'd say it's probably going to be scaled down a little bit in terms of size so it can fit more areas, but they would probably have to cut a few bits of different countries, which kind of makes sense. I'm fine with that as long as they're adding in enough area to breathe. But then again, they could outright surprise us and do a whole complete world. I don't know, it just depends. The thing is that we're just going to have to wait and see. But every now and then they throw little hints like these in these interviews, and it's like, well, you know, it would be nice if we had it from an official source rather than just a copy-pasted thing, because, you know, sometimes games journalists can misquote something by accident or intentionally or something. I'm not saying PCGAMESN has done it, because I don't really know this website too well, but we've seen it happen with various other different companies or publications and so on, so it's just important to know that. My thing is, we've already been seeing a lot of mention of Ind in Warhammer 3. We've seen that through all the previews that myself and other creators have been doing. So I would like to think that we're going to get Ind and other countries. They even mentioned the Naga by even changing it a little bit. As you noticed that the Naga of Koresh now have 2 Gs instead of 1, which is a more GW copyright friendly thing, which, yeah. It is important to note, though, that if you do Google the Warhammer Fantasy World, or just any search engine that you do use, Ind isn't that large, so it kind of cuts off more or less where the Southlands cuts off. Now, Lustria obviously has been scaled differently, but I don't know. It could just be that they're doing different scaling. I just wanted to kind of highlight this because a lot of people were asking, it kind of sounds like Full World, but it also kind of doesn't at the same time, which is confusing. We're going to have to wait and see, but I know a lot of people don't really read these articles and so on. They're not aware. Obviously, they're not so highly publicized by Total War themselves. So I just wanted to let you guys know just in case. And let me know what you guys think. We'll have a bit of a discussion. I should be around my PC a lot today after some work issues I've got to sort out. But until then, I'll see you all again very, very soon. And just a quick note, the stream that was for today for Warhammer 3 is unfortunately being moved till tomorrow, just because, yeah, work matters, you know, gotta get the day job sorted first. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.